Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and Justin Bieber recently coming out stating that he has it's called Ramsay Hunt Syndrome. And what Justin Bieber had stated is that this was a virus that attacked the nerve in his ear, and it's affected his his facial nerves, and it has affected the whole right side of Justin Bieber's face. And I want to state firstly, my prayers go out to Justin Bieber, and he probably will never see this video, but my prayers do go out to him. I hope that he makes a very quick recovery. I understand there can be varying times in progress and recuperation of this illness, and sometimes the effects can be very sustained. And as I believe in some remote isolated cases, it can be permanent or very long, very sustained effects from this, where there can be, like weakness in the face for a very prolonged or protracted time. And I hope it doesn't come to that for Justin Bieber. And I'm going to talk about some natal placements and some transits in his chart that might be tied into this. One thing when I look at his Justin Bieber's chart, what stands out to me. And first, I want to talk about just something about his that's connected more to general nature, is that he has a preponderance of planets on the left side of his chart. 9 of his 10 planets are on the left side of his chart, and that tells me he's somebody that's really likely exceptionally self-reliant and independent, and he's going to do whatever he can do on his own to make the recovery. He had stated something about there was going to be some I don't know if it's like exercise or some kind of therapy for the face that where he might be could rehab it and maybe help the recovery and accelerate the recovery process. And I hope that it is successful for him. Now, getting to his chart. Now, it's interesting is, now I'm going to talk about some placements natally first, and I'm going to go on to some transits. Now, natally, I notice, okay, this is I believe the right side of his face is what's affected right now. I think this right side, his face is basically pretty much 100% paralyzed and immobile at this time. And one thing that I did, notice, it's one thing that stands out. Well, one basic thing, okay, he does have, in his chart, he has Saturn conjunct his Sun, and that, that's an indicator for him where, he was very, likely very, adult-like, at a very young age, and he reached his, what he wanted to do in terms of, those Piscean dreams and fantasies, and, being in film, whatever it was, being on, television and film. And the thing about that too, though, is now physically, Saturn conjunct the Sun, can indicate, issues just with vitality and physical related abilities, and just basically could weaken the constitution. And the thing is, and Saturn is also chronic illnesses. Now, I don't think this is going to be likely anything chronic, but it could weaken the constitution. Having Saturn conjunct the Sun. The Sun is connected with the physical body to some degree, and the vitality. Yes, the ascendant is what dominates the vitality, the energy in the physical body, but the Sun can play a role as well. And it could be susceptible to things that are connected with, the immune system. And I don't know if this has 100% of this has anything to do with that, but this is still one thing that stands out. And the Sun does rule the right eye in males, and the Pisces is about weakness and dissipation, and Saturn is about limitation, restriction, and it does conjunct his Sun. And again, the Sun is connected with the right eye, in males. And another thing he has natally, it's another interesting conjunction. He has Mercury, conjunct his Mars. And the thing about this is I can't find as far as definitively as far as the head goes in astrology, well what the face actually covers, I should say, what corresponds with, I would say Mars. And that's just me. I believe Mars, is connected with the head and the face in astrology. Mercury conjuncts it, and Mercury is connected with the nerves. He has Mercury retrograde, and he has it in Aquarius. And it's interesting, that he talks about this being becoming progressively worse. But I think that Justin Bieber with Mercury and Aquarius is probably somebody that thinks being very futuristic, and he's going to do whatever he can. Okay, I'm sorry, I can say that again, not kids, but he can to get through with this. And going back to the Mercury and Mars conjunction, if we're to say that Mars is associated with the face, this is something where, and then you have Mercury connected with the nerves. That right there, natally, can give a greater propensity for issues with that. And the thing is, looking at his chart, as well as far as anything natal, he does have Taurus on the cusp of his sixth house in his chart. And the thing is, Taurus, I would say, corresponds with the ears. So right there is a greater propensity for health-related issues with the ears. He has the ruler, Venus, ruler of the sixth house, Venus, in his fourth house. So this is affected. It's not surprising. This actually has an effect on his eating, because Justin did state this is the virus that attacked the nerve in his ear. Now, as a result, half of his face is paralyzed, and he can't. He's having much difficulty, consuming food and eating. And the fourth house it corresponds with food. The fourth house in astrology does correspond with the zodiac sign Cancer. And another thing too, in Justin Bieber's natal chart that was interesting. Okay, he does have all of his planets fall roughly like in approximately 150 degree range, and everything with him, he's probably, when you have all your planets in a roughly tight bundle or what have you, it's compressed in a very tight area in your chart. What it is, it tells me that he likely doesn't allow a lot of extraneous things to interfere with what he's doing, that he's very purposeful. He also has Scorpio rising, and he has Scorpio rising at 29 degrees. It's a B rating, I believe, in his chart. And but if that is the case, and that is the true data, he shows in a lot of that, that Scorpio rising energy outwardly very powerfully being at the 29th degree. But it could also, 29 degrees in astrology is the anaretic degree. It is a critical crisis degree in astrology. The ascendant also is associated with the physical body, and he has Pluto conjunct his ascendant as well. North Node is conjunct the ascendant. And the thing is, with Justin Bieber, and again, going back to having the Scorpio rising at 29 degrees, that full culmination of the sign. Outwardly, I'm sure he projects, somebody, that's very resourceful and very passionate, resilient, and appears nearly indomitable, and has a lot of, very, inordinate willpower. And this is somebody that that will likely, he'll likely get through a lot through this adversity that he is going through. Scorpio rising tends to move on regardless of adversity or tribulation that he may face, and that they may face. And the thing is, though, the North now having having that Scorpio rising at 29 degrees, and then you have the North Node connected with it. That could be issues that one may have to confront and address at some point physically in one's life. Yes, we all have to do that practically. I mean, regardless of astrological placements, but it may be more emphasized with him. And Scorpio is associated with the colon, the bladder, the prostate, the urinary tract. There might be some issues with those things that he may have to deal with at a later point in time if he hasn't already done so. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, and Pluto also is associated with viruses. So it's not, and then you have Scorpio is associated with that as well. He does again have Pluto conjunct the ascendant in his chart, but that conjunction also I think indicates in having a Scorpio ascendant why he has such this powerful persona, or at least that people can see on that first impression. Um, the his outer demeanor. Outer demeanor, of course, is associated with the ascendant. Going back to his the natal placement he has, there was something else I wanted to state, that he has his Venus in Pisces in loose in conjunct aspect with his moon. And well, what's interesting about that is that I believe Venus can have a connection with the ear, and the moon is associated with with our food and our eating, and again this problem with the ear again, which has caused the paralysis in half of his face, has sadly had an impact on his eating. And the thing is, an inconjunct can often be about adjustments. It's a loose inconjunct aspect anyway, is what I'm saying. Now, something else I wanted to state is that as far as transits go, well, the one thing that really stands out at this time, what Justin Bieber has, is that he has 4 transits in Taurus in the 6th house of health at this time, physical health. He currently has his transit Venus, transit Uranus, the North Node, and Mercury in Taurus in the 6th house. And Taurus, I believe, has the association with the ear, with the ears, and you're talking about Venus is in there as well. And Venus, the planet itself, I would say, has a connection with the ear. It seems like there's a lot of debate and over what planet actually is associated with the ears. I've seen on one source at least said that Saturn was like the right ear, then it had Saturn as the left ear in another source, and then one person stated, I believe it was Venus. I think Venus is connected with the ears because it does govern, it rules Taurus, and Taurus I believe would be connected with the ears, but that is just my own belief, and that is something that is up for debate and appears to be a subjective matter in the astrological community. But anyway, and then having the transit North Node there as well. The North Node in transit can reflect issues one may have to address and confront. And Taurus, of course, again, I believe is associated with the ear. It's also Mercury is in there as well, and transit Mercury is in Taurus in that 6th house right now, opposing his ascendant. And it's also it's at a point, I mean, Mercury also has a connection with the nerves, as does Uranus, and both are in that 6th house right now. And that is really the thing right now with transits that is really standing out to me for Justin Bieber. And he also right now has transit Saturn very close to the the natal Mars, and that's to me, I mean, going back to Mars, what I believe Mars would be connected with the face, and Saturn is inhibiting, it's restricting energy. And what I wanted to just state, as far as any kind of relief for Justin Bieber, I do see something auspicious coming up in the relatively near future. Now, as early, which is tomorrow, June 12th of 2022, the transit of Mercury is actually, I mean, will still be opposing his ascendant, but it's going to be moving into the separating aspect, the opposition to the ascendant. So that could be a good omen for him right there. And on June 14th, it's going to move out of the opposition aspect completely. It's gonna hit out of his when it moves out of the opposition aspect to the ascendant, or at least what I'm saying by the applying part of it, it will move out of his sixth house of health. So that could be a good sign right there. Again, June 14th, it's going to move out of the opposition aspect completely, and it'll be in Mercury will be in Gemini, and I mean that is one glimmer of hope for him. But another thing too, I find what's interesting is that there's also another transit that's going to be taking place is the transit Sun, which has the connection with the physical body, and it's also, the right eye in males again. It's going to be making an inconjunct aspect to Justin's ascendant soon. But when we hit like June 20th, it's going to go out of that inconjunct aspect. It'll separate, or at least it's going to at least separate. And as far as the separation from that, separating inconjunct aspect, not applying. So that could be a time where, in 29 degrees in astrology, when it hits Justin's ascendant, according to Astro.com, it's the B rating, it's 2902 Scorpio. 29 degrees Scorpio, 2 is 2 minutes of arc. And then you have the, so when the Sun in Gemini transits at 29 degrees, 3 minutes of arc, that will be separation. That'll be the separating inconjunct aspect. 29 degrees in astrology can reflect the ending of something. I'm being hopeful and optimistic for Justin that maybe this will signify something where at least he'll have really a lot of tremendous relief from what this is doing to him at this point in time. And another thing too is that Justin Bieber, another thing I made note of is that the transit Saturn in Aquarius is going to be making the separation, the separation aspect. I mean, it's already started. It's coming close on that now. To right now, I believe, like with Mars, it's going to be doing that very soon. Let me just hold on a moment, people. Bear with me. I want to see where his Mars is at. Well, his Mars is at about 25 a degree, 7 minutes of arc of Aquarius. So the transit Saturn, it's going to be separating very soon in the near future from his natal Mars, and it's going to separate from his natal Mercury as far as the conjunction goes. The transit Saturn right now is at least in loose conjunction aspect to his natal Mercury, and Mercury again connected with the nerves. I would say Aquarius has a connection with that. Saturn again is inhibiting and restricting. When transit Saturn makes the separation conjunction aspect to Mercury, which will be in about a month, that could be another time. If Justin is still feeling effects by then, that could be another point in time where he may have some relief from this. And again, I do hope for Justin's sake that this is something that ends sooner than later. And Justin had made a statement on, I saw it on some blog online, and it was something about how something about God giving this to him, or having this happen for a reason. Well, a lot of times, when, for people out there that are believers, that are spiritually minded, is when things like this happen, it's a test to us. It's, God sometimes might give us, maybe some tribulation, some adversity to get through, and make us, have our, it kind of reaffirms our faith in him, that, he can get us through these matters. Let us know that life is not just always going to be that bowl of cherries. And I think too, with Justin being so relatively young, this is something that is more prevalent, I believe, from what I looked online, was for older people. And Justin's just 28 years old, very very relatively young age, the prime of his life essentially right now. I think this another theory I have, if you want to look at this again from another spiritual vantage point, is that God could be reminding Justin that, hey, you know what, even Now, you could be, a renowned celebrity or what have you, but you're not impervious or invincible to getting some kind of disease or some kind of, very, debilitating type of condition or severe, illness or what have you. You still can, you still have susceptibility to trauma, and anybody does. It doesn't matter what stature, your life you're in, your social status or what have you, that anybody can get this at any point in time, in their life. So, and it doesn't matter who you are. And I think my theory is that, excuse me, that may have something to do with this. If you want to look at it from a spiritual, vantage point. And I wish, and again, he probably won't even see this video. If any of you out there happen to know Justin, or if you're a close friend, you happen to be a family member that sees this video, relay the message to him and say that I do hope that he gets better soon. And anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.